I didn't believe in curses until I moved to America. That sounds dramatic, I know, but it's the truth. It started on a morning that should have been normal. Gray light, the hum of the building's ventilation, the kind of silence you only get before the city wakes up. I live alone in a small apartment. The window above my sink faces the neighboring building, a narrow gap of air and concrete that never really gets sunlight. I keep that window cracked sometimes, just to let the room breathe. That morning I woke up because I heard something outside. Not a knock, not a voice. A scrape, soft and slow, like someone dragging a fingertip along concrete. I told myself it was a branch, or a bird, or the wind pushing something loose along the ledge. I got up anyway, barefoot, half asleep, still trying to be a normal person in a normal world. I pulled the curtain aside and leaned forward. On the outer ledge, right where the metal frame meets the concrete, there was a single pale strand. Not hair. Too thick. Too fibrous. Too deliberate. It looked like something that came off rope, but cleaner than any rope should be. Almost bleached. Almost new. Damp enough that it clung to the ledge when I nudged it with my fingertip. Under it there was a faint rub mark in the dust, a narrow line like something had been dragged across the concrete and then lifted away. My stomach went cold, because I'd seen that before. Not the strand exactly. America has its own grime, its own little mysteries, but the feeling in my chest, that recognition, that was from home, from a village in China where the lanes were narrow and the walls held heat even after the sun went down. From a time when I was small enough to believe every adult knew what they were doing. I stared at that strand for a long time. Then I did what a rational adult would do. I told myself it was nothing. I grabbed a paper towel, pinched it, threw it into the trash, and washed my hands until my skin felt raw. And still, I couldn't shake the thought that I'd made the first mistake. Because the first time I saw something like that, it didn't stop at a strand. It started at a window. It always starts at a window. When I was a kid, I spent most weekends in my grandmother's village. There wasn't much to do except chase each other, climb things you weren't supposed to climb, and play hide and seek until the sky turned the color of old paper. At the end of one lane lived Dr. Wong. That wasn't his real title, not officially, but everyone called him that because he'd studied in the city and came back with a crisp way of speaking, and a house that looked slightly better than everyone else's. He was the kind of man who liked to remind people he believed in science and progress, which is why what happened to his family shook the whole village. His house sat at the dead end of a narrow alley. One side was a brick wall, the other side was a row of small courtyards, and at the very end, right before the lane stopped, there was a window ledge that jutted out over a patch of shadow. Even during the day, that corner looked dimmer than it should have. Kids didn't think like that, though. Kids only think, this is a good hiding place. That evening, we were playing hide and seek, and I chose the end of the lane because I wanted to win. I pressed myself against the wall below Dr. Wong's window and held my breath, listening for footsteps and laughter. That's when I saw it. At first I thought it was laundry, a pale shape, hunched low on the window ledge. Then it moved, not like a person shifting their weight, like something settling into place, as if the ledge had been waiting for it. It was white, not bright white, more like old cloth, dusty and drained of color, and in its hand it held something thin, pale, and dangling. A strand, a rope fiber. It let it hang down over the ledge like it was measuring the drop. I remember the worst detail wasn't the shape. It was the way it felt aware. It didn't have a face that I could see, but I knew, deep in my bones, that it knew I was there, like it could feel my eyes on it through the air. My throat locked up. My legs forgot how to move. Then, as if it had decided I'd seen enough, the pale figure turned slightly toward me. Not fully, just enough. And I ran. I didn't stop running until I was home. I didn't tell my friends why. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell anyone. Because how do you explain something that makes no sense when every adult around you is already tired and busy and angry at the world? That night, people started shouting in the lane. Someone banged on doors. Someone screamed for help. Dr. Wong's wife had been found inside their house, and the whole village poured into the alley like water. She survived. She was cut down in time, but from the next day on, everyone said she wasn't the same. She would sit by the window and stare out into the lane for hours. Sometimes she'd mumble things under her breath like she was answering someone who wasn't there. Dr. Wong insisted it was stress, exhaustion, family pressure. He told anyone who would listen that people were making stories out of nothing. And then I got sick. It came on fast like someone dropped a heavy blanket over my head. Fever, chills, a tight feeling in my throat like I was swallowing string. The worst part wasn't the fever. The worst part was sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I dreamed of rope fibers brushing the inside of my mouth, like something was trying to thread itself into me. I would wake up choking and clutching my neck, not because I couldn't breathe, but because my body believed I couldn't. My family panicked. They tried medicine, they tried doctors. Nothing helped, so they did what people do when logic fails and fear takes over. She was an older woman in the village who everyone mocked publicly and respected privately. She didn't wear robes or claim miracles. She just showed up, looked around your home, and told you the truth you didn't want. She came into our house, took one look at me, and asked my mother a strange question. Did he look at it through glass? My mother frowned. Look at what? Auntie Lou looked at me, not unkindly. The thing at Dr. Wong's window. I didn't answer at first. I couldn't, because hearing someone say it out loud made it real in a way I wasn't ready for. But she didn't push. She just nodded slowly, like my silence was an answer. She did a simple cleansing. No fireworks, no shouting. She burned something bitter-smelling. She traced a line across our threshold. She pressed her thumb hard between my eyebrows until I winced. Then she leaned close and spoke softly so only the adults could hear. That thing has waited a long time, she said. A long, long time. It finally found a house it could tie itself to. My mother tried to laugh. It's just superstition. Auntie Lou didn't laugh back. The first time it tried, she continued, someone interrupted it. That makes it worse. It won't leave. It will keep pulling until the knot holds. My father asked, pulling what? Auntie Lou's eyes flicked toward the window. A life, a replacement. Then she looked straight at me and said the sentence I remember even now, in a different country, in a different life. If you ever see pale fiber where it shouldn't be, she said, don't touch it with your bare hands. Don't bring it inside, and don't pretend you didn't see it. I recovered after that, slowly, like someone let go of my throat. The village moved on, because villages always move on. People still had crops to tend, money to make, marriages to fight about. But Dr. Wong's house didn't move on. A week later, Dr. Wong's wife died. The adults said it was a tragedy brought on by family conflict, the kind of thing people whisper about and then pretend they didn't. Auntie Lou refused to go near their lane after that. The funeral was the first time I understood that what I'd seen wasn't just a shadow. The air in the morning room felt wrong, thick, hot, like the walls were sweating. The incense burned too quickly. Flies showed up, even though it wasn't the season for flies. At one point, Dr. Wong leaned close to the coffin, his face tight with grief and anger and disbelief. And something happened that made everyone stumble back. There was a sudden sound from inside, like trapped air releasing. A few people screamed and covered their mouths. I didn't understand what I was seeing, not really. I was too young to know the body does strange things in heat. But I did see something else. For just a moment, in the corner of my eye, I saw her. Not her body, her. A pale shape sitting upright where nothing should sit, like she was watching Dr. Wong with a kind of cold amusement. A ghost. That was the first time I ever thought the word and felt it fit. After that, the men in Dr. Wong's family started dying, not all at once, not like a movie, slowly, like the rope was tightening one strand at a time. Dr. Wong developed a swelling on his chest that never healed. People said it looked like an infection. He insisted he'd handle it. He kept working, kept smiling, kept mocking the village for being superstitious. Then one night, someone swore they saw the swelling shift beneath his skin, like it had a lid. Someone else swore it blinked. He died in the hospital not long after, still insisting the whole village was mad. His father, an old man who liked to shout at anyone who suggested ghosts, died next. A farm accident, people said, a freak moment. But the way villagers told it even years later always included the same detail. The animal didn't charge his legs, it charged his belly. As if something was aiming, Dr. Wong's younger brother fled to the city, Shenzhen, a place loud enough to drown out village stories. He sent back voice messages saying he was fine, Then he started saying strange things, that he kept seeing someone perched on ledges outside his workplace, white and hunched, like a stain against the night. He stopped replying after that. When the news came, nobody wanted to describe it. They just said he died on a night shift, and nobody could explain why a normally controlled guard dog turned violent. By then, the village didn't call it coincidence anymore. They called Dr. Wong's house a knot, a place where something had tied itself down, and anyone linked to it got pulled tighter. Years later, the wife's grave collapsed, just sank inward, as if something below had hollowed it out. People stopped walking that lane at night. Kids stopped playing hide and seek there, and Auntie Lou died without ever stepping back into that alley. I grew up. I left. I told myself distance would clean it off me like dust. That's what I believed anyway. Until the strand on my American window ledge. Standing there in the dim light, I remembered everything at once. The pale figure, the rope fiber, the fever, Auntie Lou's hands pressing hard against my forehead. I thought about how I'd thrown the strand away like it was nothing. I thought about how I'd touched it. I thought about the faint rub mark in the dust, like something had been dragged there slowly, patiently. And then I heard it again. Not the scrape this time, a soft sound on the glass. Not loud, not urgent, just familiar. Like a knuckle tapping once, testing. I didn't move. I didn't look down into the gap between buildings. I kept my eyes straight ahead and backed away from the window, the way you back away from a sleeping animal you're not sure is asleep. I pulled the curtain shut. Then I did the only thing I could think to do. I covered the glass with a towel, because Auntie Lou was right about one thing I didn't understand as a kid. Some things don't need you to believe in them. They just need you to notice them. So listen to me. If you ever find a single pale strand on your window ledge, something that looks like rope fiber but feels too clean and too intentional, close the window, cover the glass, and whatever you do, don't touch it with your bare hands. Don't bring it inside. If you touch it and bring it inside, it will curse you.